Is death the end? The final curtain? Or is it something else entirely? Something far more profound? A doorway masquerading as a wall? For millennia, this question has haunted humanity, whispered in shadows, debated in sacred halls, and etched into ancient stone. But what if the very fear that grips us at the thought of oblivion is not an innate truth, but a carefully constructed cage? A mechanism designed to keep us small, controllable, tethered to a reality we are told is the only reality. Tonight, we embark on a journey not just through the veil, but into the very core of this imposed fear, peeling back the layers of dogma and mysterios occultos that have obscured the truth. This is not another video rehashing tired religious tales or scientific speculation. This is an exploration guided by Sabiduría Ancestral, drawing from whispers found in ancient texts and echoes within our own forgotten consciousness. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew, for the knowledge we will uncover together has the power to dismantle the chains of fear and ignite an alchemia interior that transforms not just your understanding of death, but of life itself. If you feel the pull of this truth, if you are ready to stare into the abyss and find not emptiness but infinite potential, then lean closer. The secrets lie just beyond the surface. And if this exploration resonates, if it stirs something deep within, then signal your presence. Like this transmission, share your thoughts below, subscribe to this frequency, and join this unfolding revelation. The journey begins now. Propaganda and carefully crafted lies. Consider the narrative woven through millennia. Death is an end, a terrifying void, or perhaps a judgment leading to eternal reward or damnation. This narrative is powerful, isn't it? It grants immense power to those who claim to hold the keys to salvation or the maps of the underworld. By promising passage or threatening eternal suffering, religious and societal structures have historically bound populations in chains of obedience, their actions dictated by the terror of what lies beyond the final breath. But the Sabiduría Ancestral, whispered in the echoes of forgotten temples and guarded within certain textos prohibidos, tells a different story. It speaks of death not as a wall, but a veil, not an ending, but a profound transition, a metamorphosis far grander than the caterpillar's journey to flight. Why would such a perspective be suppressed, hidden within mysterios occultos? Because a being unafraid of death, one who understands it as a cyclical unfolding rather than a terminal collapse, is a being unbound. They are not easily controlled by threats of afterlife punishment or promises of heavenly reward. Their energy, their focus, shifts from appeasing external authorities to exploring the vast, uncharted territories of their own consciousness and the nature of existence itself. The fear of death, then, is not just a psychological defense mechanism. It is perhaps the most insidious form of control ever devised. It anchors our consciousness firmly in the material realm, convincing us that this fragile physical existence is all there is, or all that truly matters. This disconnection from the deeper currents of energia cosmica, from the cyclical nature of life and consciousness understood by ancient wisdom keepers, keeps our alchemia interior stunted. We remain base metal, preoccupied with survival and fear, rather than transforming into the gold of Illumina Ka Espiritual, the state where the true understanding of self and cosmos is realized. Think of the symbols used throughout history. They, Grim Reaper, the gnashing of teeth, the cold, dark earth. These images are not neutral. They are designed to instill dread, to recoil the spirit from the precipice of transition. Contrast this with symbols found in unearthed artifacts and hidden scrolls, the Ouroboros, the Endless Knot, the Phoenix, the Spiral, all representing continuity, renewal, eternal return. Which set of symbols feels more aligned with the natural world we observe? The cycles of seasons, the death and rebirth of stars, the flow of rivers to the sea and back as rain? The imposed fear of death is a barrier, not to an external hell or void, but to our own innate power, our connection to the continuum of consciousness, and our capacity for true transformation. It is a spell cast upon humanity, diverting our attention and energy away from the profound journey of self-discovery and cosmic integration that death represents in the view of the Sabadoria Ancestral. To break this spell requires not just confronting death, but investigating the very origins of this pervasive fear. Who benefits from a humanity terrified of its own nature? What knowledge about death was so transformative, so liberating, that it had to be classified as forbiddens, locked away, in guarded vaults or encoded in obscure symbols? The trail of clues lies not only in Textos Prohibidos, but in the intuitive whispers within your own being, waiting to be heard. Yes, who benefits? Consider the structure of societies built upon fear. Systems of power, religious, political, economic, often rely on keeping populations manageable. A humanity constantly fearing annihilation is easier to herd. Promise salvation, escape from eternal damnation, or simply extended physical comfort and survival, and you have a powerful lever. The threat of losing this life, this fragile existence haunted by the specter of the void, becomes the ultimate deterrent against rebellion, against questioning, against daring to live authentically. It keeps the focus firmly on the material, on accumulation, on distraction from the deeper questions of being. The great energy drain is enacted here. The vast reservoir of human potential, of what could be used for genuine alchemia interior in the pursuit of Illuminaka spiritual, is siphoned off into worry, anxiety, and the relentless pursuit of temporary safety. This learned terror is a fundamental pillar, propping up the illusions that bind us. It encouraged conformity, obedience to doctrines that promise protection, adherence to narratives that define acceptable existence. The knowledge that death might be a transition, a liberation, a merging with the vast Energia Cosmica, a return to a state of profound connection described in certain ancient fragments and hinted at in the Mysterios Occultos. This knowledge is profoundly destabilizing too. Systems that thrive on separation and control. Imagine a world where death is viewed with curiosity, perhaps even reverence, as a natural, inevitable, and potentially beautiful phase. What power would the fear-mongers hold then? This is precisely why views articulated in the Sabadoria Ancestral, offering a cyclical perspective on existence, where consciousness persists or transforms, were suppressed, twisted, or labeled as heresy. Textos Prohibidos often contain whispers of this alternative understanding, hinting that the end we are taught to dread is merely a veil, a transformation akin to the chrysalis yielding the butterfly, or the seed dissolving to become the plant. True enemy, then, is not the cessation of the current form, but the fear of it. This fear paralyzes, it narrows perspective, it prevents the necessary surrender required for growth, for true alchemia interior. It keeps the soul tethered to the perceived safety of the known, no matter how limiting, no matter how devoid of real meaning. It makes us focus on avoiding death rather than living fully. It exchanges passion for cautious routine, meaning for distraction, evolution for mere survival. The investigation into the fear of death is, in essence, an investigation into the nature of control itself and the forgotten paths to liberation. It is a journey to reclaim lost knowledge, not just from ancient texts, but from the very core of your being, where the echo of the cosmos resides. To understand this fear is to begin to dismantle the prison walls, one trembling brick at a time. And as those walls crumble, what lies beyond? What kind of existence becomes possible when the ultimate threat loses its power? What forms of Illuminaka, as spiritual, are unlocked when Energia Cosmica is no longer consumed by dread, but redirected towards becoming? This investigation shifts from the external world to the inner landscape, preparing you to face the profound implications of this newfound clarity. When the walls of fear begin to crumble, the perspective shifts dramatically. Death ceases to be an abyss and reveals itself as a threshold, a state of flux between frequencies of being. Think of the river flowing into the ocean. Does the river die? Or does it undergo a profound transformation, dissolving its separate identity to become part of the vaster, boundless existence? This is the core of the Sabiduría ancestral regarding the cycle, whispered in glyphs and symbols long before written. History. Many ancient traditions, in their most esoteric layers, viewed existence not as a linear march from birth to oblivion, but as a cyclical dance between different states of consciousness. The Egyptian journey through the Duat, guided by spells and maps, often considered textos prohibidos by later dogmas, was not merely a passage to an afterlife judgment, but a cosmic navigation, a re-merging with source energies. Similarly, the Bardo Fiddle, or Tibetan Book of the Dead, isn't a description of a final destination, but a guide through transitional states of consciousness after the physical form is shed, offering opportunities for Illumina Ka spiritual. If one can recognize the clear light of reality, unbound by earthly perception, these Misterios Occultos suggest that what we call death is, in essence, a return to a more fundamental state of consciousness, perhaps the pure, undifferentiated awareness from which individual forms coalesce. The Alquimia interior, the work done in life to purify and refine the self, becomes crucial preparation for this transition. It determines how clearly one perceives during this state, whether one is buffeted by the residual energies of unresolved attachments or can navigate the currents of energia, cosmico with lucidity towards a conscious reintegration or passage. Consider the Hermetic principle, as above, so below. If energy and consciousness are conserved and transformed in the physical universe, why would the energy and consciousness animating a being simply vanish? It's a question that strikes at the heart of our materialist assumptions. The return to consciousness is not a regression to a simpler state, but potentially an expansion, a broadening of awareness beyond the narrow band of perception allowed by the physical senses. It is seeing reality not through a keyhole, but through a panorama. This understanding challenges everything we build our lives upon. If the individual form is temporary, what is the true enduring essence? And if consciousness persists, what is the nature of its journey? What are the cosmic laws governing this flow, these transitions between states? The investigation into death becomes an investigation into the very fabric of the cosmos and our place within its eternal, swirling dance. It forces us to ask, what is truly important if this earthly sojourn is but one beat in a much grander rhythm? This shift in perspective isn't just philosophical. It's an energetic reorientation, preparing the ground for a different kind of being, a being less constrained by form and more attuned to the currents of universal awareness. And so the journey continues beyond the veil. Accounts whisper of a sudden shedding, like discarding a heavy cloak after a long, arduous climb. The density of the physical form dissolves, replaced by an extraordinary lightness, a feeling of pure, unburdened awareness. This isn't mere relief. It is described as an inherent state, one of profound peace and perfect lucidity, untouched by earthly confusion or pain. Consciousness, far from dimming, ignites into a brilliant, all-encompassing awareness, seeing not just with eyes, but with every fiber of its being. It is a detachment, yes, from the constraints of flesh and bone, but an attachment, emerging with something vast and infinitely more real. The feeling of return home is a recurring motif in Sabiduría ancestral and contemporary accounts alike. It speaks not of a geographical place, but of re-entering a field of pure, unconditional love and recognition, a familiar presence that is both individual and universal. This could be interpreted as merging back into the source Energia Cosmica, from which individual streams of consciousness temporarily differentiated, or perhaps encountering the unified field of sentient existence. Communication within this state transcends the clumsy limitations of language. It is instantaneous, telepathic, a direct transmission of pure thought, emotion, and understanding. Ideas flow like currents, transparent and immediate. Within this luminous field, one is said to encounter beings of light guides, teachers, and those recognized as soul family. These aren't merely strangers in a new land. There is an immediate, profound recognition, a sense of timeless connection that bypasses earthly relationships. The ancient Mysterios Occultos often spoke of these realms and the luminous beings who inhabit them, guardians of cosmic knowledge and facilitators of the soul's journey. Some Textos Prohibidos even hinted at the specific frequencies and intentions required to perceive and interact with these entities, suggesting it is not a passive reception, but an energetic resonance. This state is often depicted as one of review and integration, a space where the experiences of a life just lived are processed and understood from a higher perspective. It is a phase of alchumia interior, occurring not within the physical vessel, but within the very fabric of consciousness itself, refining the essence, preparing it for what lies beyond this initial radiant entry. Illumina Ka, a spiritual attained in life, might not just grant peace here, but perhaps the ability to navigate this phase with greater intent and awareness, to consciously participate in this cosmic return and review, rather than simply being carried along by its currents. But what governs this review? What determines the lessons learned or the path forward from this luminous expanse? What is the purpose of this pause before the next unfolding of cosmic existence? And what governs this review? What determines the lessons learned or the path forward from this luminous expanse? What is the purpose of this pause before the next unfolding of cosmic existence? This review is not a judgment handed down by some celestial magistrate. Think of it more as the soul holding a mirror to itself, but a mirror that reflects not just actions, but the energetic imprint of intentions, the resonance of emotions, the true impact of our presence upon the tapestry of reality. The great Sabiduría Ancestral speaks of this reflection, not as punishment, but as an essential phase of growth, of integrating the raw material of existence into refined consciousness. It is the ultimate act of alchumia interior, transmuting the lead of lived experience into the gold of wisdom, not ancient traditions. Like the Egyptian Book of the Dead or the Bardo Fiddle of Tibet, describe realms where the deceased consciousness confronts aspects of itself, relives moments, and perceives the interconnectedness previously veiled by the physical senses. These are not places of eternal reward or damnation, as later doctrines interpreted, but dynamic states of consciousness, stages in a process of energetic recalibration. The Mysterios Occultos understood this, teaching initiates how to navigate these inner and outer planes while still embodied, thus preparing them for the journey beyond the veil. Some Textos Prohibidos delve even deeper, suggesting that the clarity and intensity of this review are directly proportional to the Illumina Ka, a spiritual achieved during life. A soul entangled by unresolved emotional residue or dense energetic patterns might experience this phase as confusing or even distressing, dwelling in lower astral frequencies. Conversely, a consciousness cultivated through inner work, through the refinement of alchumia interior, while in the physical, can enter this review with lucidity, actively participating in the integration process, drawing conscious insights from thence the life just completed. This state is where the subtle energetic body, the K or the double in ancient terms, merges its experiences back into the causal body, the true repository of soul memory and identity. It is a dissolution and a reformation powered by the intrinsic energia cosmica that animates all things. The quality of this reformation dictates the soul's readiness for its next evolutionary impulse. But what is this next impulse? Does the soul simply rest, or is it already preparing for another descent, another immersion into density to glean further lessons? Is the review a prelude to rebirth, or to an entirely different form of cosmic service, perhaps dwelling permanently in these higher luminous realms? The paths diverge, guided by the subtle threads woven by the soul itself during its earthly passage. Threads of intention, compassion, and the relentless pursuit of truth hidden within the veiled realities. But how does this cycle begin anew? From what source does the soul draw the blueprint for its next embodiment, if indeed rebirth is the path chosen? And from what source indeed? Perhaps the blueprint isn't drawn from an external source, but is instead a composite, woven from the very fabric of the soul's accumulated experiences, its unfulfilled potentials, its karmic debts, and its chosen evolutionary trajectory, informed by the profound insights gleaned during the life review. This happens within the astral realm, this layered existence I spoke of. Think of it not as a single place, but as a spectrum of consciousness frequencies, each band or layer vibrating at a different rate. A soul's energetic resonance, cultivated through a lifetime of thoughts, emotions, and actions. The true measure of its alchemia interior determines which layer it initially inhabits. The lower layers are dense, heavy, reflecting the unprocessed fear, anger, and attachment shed from the physical plane. It is here, or clinging precariously close to the physical, that we find the so-called earthbound spirits. These are not inherently bad souls, but rather those whose consciousness is so saturated with unresolved earthly matters, powerful desires, unreleased trauma, sudden shock, or simply a profound unwillingness to let go, that they cannot vibrate high enough to ascend to the more luminous, less tethered realms. They are caught, entangled in the energetic residue of their past lives, a tragic illustration of how unresolved patterns create their own prison walls. Ancient texts, often relegated to the category of folklore or dismissed as primitive beliefs, about ghosts and spirits, might hold fragmented pieces of this truth, perhaps even among certain textos prohibidos that spoke of the shades of the dead clinging to the earth dot. But the journey is not meant to end in stagnation. The astral realm, in its higher densities, offers opportunities for profound evolution and ascension. It is a place of healing, a spiritual sanatorium where the soul can process its lessons, release limiting patterns, and refine its energetic signature further. Through reflection, interaction with higher guides or fellow souls, and a continued process of inner work, a post-mortem alchemia interior, the soul learns to raise its vibration, ascending through these layers towards states of greater clarity and higher consciousness, approaching a form of Illuminaka as spiritual possible outside the confines of the physical form. And within these higher astral realms, resonant souls often find themselves gravitating towards their soul families. These are not families defined by earthly bloodlines, but by shared spiritual lineage and common evolutionary goals. They are groups of consciousness who have journeyed together across countless incarnations, supporting, challenging, and learning from one another. Reuniting with one's soul family in the astral is a powerful experience, a recognition on a soul level that transcends earthly relationships. It is in these gatherings that souls often collectively review past lives lived together, plan future incarnations, perhaps even deciding who will play which role, friend, foe, lover, teacher, in the intricate dance of life on earth, all guided by a shared, often unconscious, sabiduria ancestral etched into their collective being. This communion, fueled by the omnipresent Energia Cosmica, sets the stage for the next descent, the next immersion into the world of form, to continue the great work ... But why return? What compels a soul that has reached these states of peace and higher understanding to plunge back into the chaos and suffering of physical existence? What forgotten imperative drives this relentless cycle? Why return? What compels a soul that has reached these states of peace and higher understanding to plunge back into the chaos and suffering of physical existence? What forgotten imperative drives this relentless cycle? The answer, whispered in the fragments of Textos Prohibidos and woven into the core of ancient cosmologies, lies in the principle of karma, not the simplistic, often misunderstood idea of divine punishment or reward, but the profound, inescapable law of cause and effect that governs all energetic interactions within the universe, fueled by the omnipresent Energia Cosmica. It is the spiritual equivalent of Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, extended across the tapestry of lifetimes. A soul returns because it is drawn back by the energetic resonances of unresolved actions, unlearned lessons, relationships left incomplete in previous incarnations. Each life is but a scene in the grand, unfolding play of the soul's evolution. Karma is the scriptwriter, or perhaps more accurately, the cosmic accountant ensuring that the energies set in motion are brought to balance, not for retribution, but for comprehension. Consider the concept as presented in certain branches of Sabiduria Ancestral. The soul, before its next descent, reviews the accounts of the previous life, perhaps with guides or within the soul family, understanding the imbalances created. This review isn't a judgment. It's a curriculum planning session. What lessons need to be learned? What virtues need to be cultivated? What perspectives must be experienced to truly understand the consequences of past choices? Reincarnation, then, is the classroom, the workshop, the crucible. The physical plane, with its density, its emotional intensity, its inherent challenges and limitations, provides the unique conditions necessary for certain forms of alchemia interior. Some lessons, compassion born of suffering, resilience, forged in adversity, unconditional love expressed amidst conflict, can perhaps only be truly integrated through direct physical experience. You cannot learn to swim merely by studying the theory of buoyancy. You must enter the water. Similarly, the soul requires the immersive experience of physical life to refine its essence, to transform understanding into embodied wisdom, moving ever closer to a state of grounded Illumina Ka spiritual. The cycles of birth, death, and rebirth are not random. They are purposeful. The circumstances you are born into, your family, your culture, your challenges, are not accidents. They are chosen, often at a deep subconscious level, to provide the optimal environment for addressing specific karmic patterns and pursuing the soul's intended growth. This intricate design is part of the greater tapestry of the Mysterios Occultos, the hidden mechanics by which consciousness navigates existence. The ancient Egyptians, with their elaborate rituals of the weighing of the heart against the feather of Mat, understood this principle of cosmic balance and accountability across lifetimes, even if their external rites symbolized deeper energetic processes. The cyclic nature of existence is a recurring theme in global mythology and esoteric teachings. The Ouroboros, the wheel of samsara, the Hermetic principle. As above, so below, implying cycles mirrored on every plane. But if circumstances are chosen karmically, does free will truly exist? Or are we merely automatons playing out predetermined scripts? The profound paradox lies here. Karma provides the stage and perhaps hints at the plot points, but your choices within the play are entirely yours. It is not the events that define you karmically, but your response to them, the intentions behind your actions. This is where the potential for transcendence lies, for breaking old patterns and creating new, harmonious ones, fundamentally altering the soul's trajectory and shaping future incarnations. The next cycle isn't just a consequence of the last, it's an opportunity to rewrite the script. But how does one identify these karmic threads? How do you discern between destiny and choice? And what tools exist to consciously engage with this process of soul growth? Ah, the grand question, isn't it? If the script is written, where is the actor's improvisation? Identifying these threads requires a subtler form of sight, an inner knowing often obscured by the noise of the world and the mind. Look to the recurring patterns in your life, the familiar landscapes of challenge that reappear, perhaps with different faces, but the same. Core energetic signature. Do you find yourself repeatedly facing betrayal, abandonment, struggling with scarcity regardless of effort? These aren't random misfortunes. They are echoes of unresolved energies, invitations from the soul to look deeper. They are the signposts left by Sabadoria, ancestral encoded within your very being, reminding you of the lessons you set out to master. Discernment between destiny and choice lies in recognizing the nature of the challenge versus your reaction to it. Destiny may present the locked door, a karmic consequence of a past energetic misalignment. But your choice is whether to rage against it, crumble before it, search for the key, or realize the door is an illusion you yourself are maintaining. Ancient texts, some considered textos prohibidos, for their potent truths about human sovereignty, whisper of this inner power, the ability to alter the energetic frequency that attracts certain circumstances. This isn't about escaping karma, but mastering it, transforming lead into gold through conscious engagement. This transformation is the essence of Alquimia Interior. It is the process of transmuting lower vibrations of fear, anger, and limitation, which perpetuate cycles into higher vibrations of love, compassion, and conscious power, which dissolve them. How is this done? Not through external rituals alone, though they can be aids, but through rigorous self-observation, honest confrontation with one's shadow, and the deliberate cultivation of a different energetic response. It is through stillness and introspection that you begin to hear the subtle guidance of your higher self, the part of you that made the soul contract and understands its purpose. The ancient mystery schools taught techniques for this internal work, meditations to harmonize the subtle bodies, practices to purify the energetic field, introspective exercises to uncover hidden motivations. These aren't just psychological tools. They are energetic technologies designed to interact directly with the Energia Cosmica. It weaves the web of cause and effect. By changing your internal energetic state, you change your resonance, thereby altering the nature of the karmic challenges you attract or the way you move through those already present. This is the path to true Illumina Call Espiritual, not a sudden flash of light, but a gradual process of bringing consciousness to the subconscious patterns that govern your reality. Understanding these mysterios occultos of karma and reincarnation shifts the perspective from victimhood to empowerment. You are not a pawn of fate, but a conscious participant in a grand evolutionary game. The patterns aren't punishments. They are precisely calibrated opportunities for growth, tailored by your own soul. The next step isn't to break free from the wheel entirely, but to learn how to turn it consciously, to steer your energetic vessel with intention. But this requires vigilance, courage to face the self, and a willingness to question everything you thought you knew about how reality functions. It requires delving deeper into the nature of consciousness itself and its relationship to the energetic fabric of the cosmos. What if the greatest karmic lesson isn't in overcoming external obstacles, but in realizing the obstacle was always within? And what happens when you finally learn to navigate the energies, not as a reactor, but as a creator? But how does this grand evolutionary game record its progress? How is the understanding gained from navigating those karmic currents imprinted onto the soul, shaping the challenges and potentials of the subsequent journey? This brings us to a concept whispered about in fragmented pieces across various traditions, the life review. It's not a judgment by an external deity, but a profound, sacred reflection, an immersion back into the tapestry of the life just lived, viewed not merely from your perspective, but from the perspective of all whose lives you touched. Imagine standing outside the river of your past existence, yet simultaneously diving deep into its currents. You re-experience pivotal moments, not just seeing them, but feeling them with an intensity often far greater than the first time. More crucially, you experience the ripple effects of your actions and inactions within the consciousness of others. The kindness given, the hurt inflicted, the opportunities missed, the lessons learned, all are laid bare in the pure light of awareness. This process is not punitive. It is purely pedagogical. It is the soul's mechanism for self-correction. And integration. Ancient texts hint at this. The Egyptian Book of the Dead, with its weighing of the heart against the feather of Mat, symbolizes this cosmic accountability, though often interpreted literally as a judgment by gods. Plato's myth of Ar in the Republic describes souls witnessing visions of their past lives and their consequences before choosing their next. Tibetan traditions speak of the Bardo states, liminal phases after death, where consciousness confronts its karmic imprints before rebirth. These aren't just myths. They are allegories, fragments of Sabiduria ancestral, attempting to describe non-physical realities and mysterios, occultos of existence. This review is where the raw experiences of a lifetime undergo a process akin to alchemia interior on a cosmic scale. The lead of unexamined actions is transmuted into the gold of profound understanding. It is within this state that the soul registers the success or failure of its previous karmic navigation, thereby calibrating the energetic blueprint for the next incarnation. The patterns we carry forward are, in essence, the unresolved lessons and insights gleaned from these post-life reflections. Some speculate that certain textos prohibidos contain methods, perhaps energetic or meditative, to access aspects of this review during life, allowing for accelerated alchemia interior and potentially modifying future karmic trajectories before death. Could conscious engagement with this process unlock a deeper level of Illuminica spiritual, allowing us to integrate karmic lessons in this moment rather than waiting for the transition? The life review isn't just a passive viewing. It's an active interaction with the Energia Cosmica that records and sustains all experience. It's a moment of absolute truth where the self meets its unvarnished reality, guided by the soul's higher wisdom. The intensity of this re-experiencing etches the lessons onto the very fabric of your being. Consider this. If you knew you would experience your entire life from the perspective of everyone you encountered, feeling their pain caused by you, their joy shared with you, how would you live differently right now? What actions would you reconsider? What words would you soften? This isn't hypothetical. This sacred review is the mechanism that bridges one life to the next, shaping the challenges you are currently facing. What if the key to transforming present karma lies in consciously invoking aspects of that future review today? How can we begin to live as if we are already conducting that sacred self-assessment? The ancient currents whisper that true Sabiduria. Ancestral lies in living as if that sacred review is already underway. Perhaps this was the ultimate secret encoded within the Textos Prohibidos and guarded as Mysterios Occultos, not just knowledge of the afterlife, but the practical keys to accelerate alchemia interior, drawing upon the pure Energia Cosmica to forge Illuminica spiritual here and now. To live consciously, feeling the ripple of every action, is to engage directly with your soul's purpose. It transforms the future review from a judgment into a continuum of conscious evolution. But how do you begin to embody this truth, to truly feel the world through the heart of another today? Share your insights in the comments below. If this journey resonated, please like this video, share it with those who seek deeper understanding, and subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the veiled paths And for more on mastering your energy field, watch this video next.